This beautiful young lady is named Kameela Minley, and she is a walking, talking miracle. Suffered a massive heart attack, was gone for 44 minutes. When she came back, there was no brain activity to speak of, no reception anyway, no response, no hope. She would be a vegetable, doctor said. Take her off the machine. But her parents, who have such a great faith, including her dad, Kevin, who shared on My Faith with Homer and Pip earlier, said, no way. And here she is today. And that's only a small part of the story. Kameela, thank you for gracing us on My Faith with Homer and Pip with our producer, Brett Young.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Homer.
Tell the story. I heard from Dad, and dads can say things. It's not that I don't believe him, but I want to hear from you. Take it away.
Okay, well, I was sharing with the guys earlier, I was diagnosed with lupus in 2016, and it's been a rough road since then. February 2nd, I had my 6th and last round of chemotherapy. I was going through Cytoxin is the name of it. It was pretty rough. I had experienced some side effects prior to having a heart attack. I had shingles right before Christmas 2017, which was like things that way to celebrate the birth of baby Jesus. So I had shingles on the right side of my face, which was kind of eye-opening because I never experienced that would be the side effect. And my nephrologist had diagnosed me with that. He said it's very common for people who are going through chemo or who have compromised immune systems. So I was very like, what? Why is this my life? But not knowing that I had more struggles ahead of me. So 2 days later, after my last round, I was having some weird symptoms. Like I just didn't feel quite well. I felt like I was maybe catching a cold, shortness of breath. I had like struggling to breathe. I didn't know if it was like something to do with the flu because, at this time it's like the end of January or the beginning of February, and that's usually flu season. So I was really not quite sure what was going on. I never expected it to do anything with the chemo or, that I would have a heart attack. That was so far from my mind. But I don't know exactly the details of the story, but my mother, my biological mother, she was telling me that, I came to them, it was like late at night, and I told them I really couldn't feel well, and that I was having shortness of breath. So they called the ambulance. Ambulance came to our house. They took me to Fredert, which is a main hospital here in Wisconsin. And soon as we got into the emergency room, I completely flatlined. It's like as soon as they hit the doors, I flatlined, which to me is like pretty eye-opening. So I could have flatlined and started having a heart attack when I was at home, but the grace of God allowed me to flatline. My body just completely gave in at the emergency room. So there was 2 paramedics there, and they manually worked on me for 44 minutes, resuscitating me, trying to bring me back. And once they did that, they put me in a medically induced coma for 6 weeks. And prior to that, it's just a storyline of me coming up and waking up and trying to realize if I'm going to actually be moving forward life-wise or if they're going to pull the plug on me. So it was a lot of things that I don't have awareness of because I just wasn't there. But there's a few things that I could share you guys with. I'm working on a film right now. My parents did a lot of documentation during that time, which is very baffling to me because I'm like, wow, to be able to go through so much pain and have the courage to pick up your cell phones and record. They didn't know if I was going to make it, but to be able to see, me go from one stage to the next, it's amazing. It's amazing. It really blows my mind. It gives me so much strength whenever I see those videos. I'm working on this film. It's like I can do, I'm still dealing with some health challenges to this day. And I'm like watching these clips and seeing me go through all of these scenarios really pushes me to know that like I have the strength to push out of this. So that is just is such a blessing to be a part of.
What do you remember during that period? What's the last thing you remember? Or were there various times where you remembered something, or is that whole period just gone?
To be honest, I don't remember anything. I remember like coming back into my when they told me that when I came to and I was actually aware of everybody that was around me, the doctor said I would never recognize the people, my family members' faces. And I said, when I first started coming to, I knew everybody. I knew everybody's face. I didn't have any questions as to who was who. And, my dad, my mom, my sisters, their names. I knew that already. It was like a natural recognition for me. But prior to that, I didn't really know anything. I was like, how did I get here? Why am I in the hospital? And my biological mother explained to me that I had died. And I'm like, what? What do you mean I died? That was very challenging to me because I had asked my mom, who Dawn, my dad's wife, that's my stepmom. I asked her months prior to this, prior to me starting chemo, to sign some medical documents to do not resuscitate me, because prior to me having a heart attack, I was already dealing with lupus. It was like a very aggressive illness. And it just really started from the bat. Like it went from like one extreme to the next. So I really didn't want to continue on. I went from this healthy, happy, bubbly person. I was traveling all over the world with, I was a medical coder prior to me dealing with lupus. So I was really traveling all over the world, really living my best life. So I really wouldn't want to continue dealing with this illness. I asked her to sign some paperwork to do not resuscitate me if anything happened to me. For some reason, I just felt like something dealing with this chemo was going to not transpire to something good. So I asked her to sign this paperwork and she agreed. So for me to have died and sitting here having this conversation with my family members, I was just really upset at the time. And it was that I would even still continue to be in this position, and that was very upsetting to me, none to say the least, but like I can't even really find the words how upset I was that I was still there. But my mindset was like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? To know that I wasn't able to read, I couldn't walk, I really couldn't speak, my first indication was like, okay, I have to get to work. So the social workers and the therapists and the speech therapists, everybody's coming in, physical therapists, everybody's coming in trying to get me back to where I need to be, which I'm so thankful for the team of Freighter, because they really, 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 really went above and beyond to help me get back to where I am today. I give them all the credit. I give God all the glory. They really took me from like a vegetable state to the person that I was prior to me having a heart attack. And it really blows my mind sometimes because I didn't know how to count from 1 to 10. I didn't know the alphabet. I didn't know how to read. And that was like my biggest frustration because I'm such a hardcore reader. I love reading. And for me not to be able to read anything or understand anything was very challenging to me. And I never thought that I would be able to get to where I am today. So I'm just very grateful for the experience. I never expected for me to make it this far. And as far as like the process of me having a heart attack, I don't remember anything in that nature. I don't remember those 44 minutes. There's a lot of people who who have experienced death, and they've come back and they have these elaborate testimonies of they met Jesus or they went to hell. I don't have any of those experiences. I'm so upset. They told me, I said, why, how come I don't remember anything? And they said, we gave you a bunch of medications so that you won't remember. And I said, okay, well, that's, I would wish I would have known, I wish I would have been able to remember what that 44 minutes of darkness or absence of life, what I experienced, but I don't remember any of that.
Is it accurate to say that if they had listened and adhered to the paper you had signed, that you wouldn't be with us?
Well, to be honest, I asked my mom, which my stepmom, I asked her to sign that paperwork, but God willingly allowed my biological mother to be there at the time. So had the team or the medical doctors would have looked up my paperwork to say like, oh yeah, this lady wants to be not resuscitated, to just allow her to go in peace. I would have been gone. So, I truly believe everything happens for a reason. My mother was there. The paramedics looked at her and they said, hey, what do you want us to do? She's coded at this point. And she said, save my baby. And they went to work, and for 44 minutes manually. And that's, to me, is really mind blowing, because I believe a nurse told me that at 45 minutes is when they kind of call it. So one more minute and I would have been gone.
Now to the faith before any of this happened, not just this story, but the condition you were dealing with. And wherever you want to start, preferably what it was before any of this occurred. And as you described, your life was very good.
I had a beautiful life. I still have a beautiful life, not to say that I don't. I would say my biggest frustration is dealing with lupus. And I kind of feel like I put myself in this situation because I was a medical coder prior to this. And as a medical coder, what you're doing is going through people's medical records, and you're attaching a code to send to their insurance company so that their insurance can pay it. So my job for 8 hours a day was to go through numerous medical records, figuring out which one goes to the right code and making sure that they're coded and billed correctly. And I loved it. I loved what I did. It was like a puzzle for me. I was very well at it. I was hired to be a medical administrator. I would travel across the world and do audits at hospitals, medical facilities, doctors' facilities. So that to me was like amazing. I was hired to play to different, fly out to different states and hotels, and they would give me like cars that have like a certain amount of balance, and they'll pay for my own food and gas and all that other stuff. So it was a eye-opening experience, and I loved doing it. But in a sense, they say there's a saying that says you are what you read. So for me, reading all these medical documentations, there's, various illnesses I'm reading multiple times a day, like knee deep in this information. I truly believe that my subconscious just kind of sucked it in. And I immediately kind of just like start taking on these illnesses. And I guess my mind kind of chose lupus because maybe it's felt like it would be the easiest, I guess, illness. It wasn't as, when I was reading about lupus, it was not as extreme as I had experienced or I'm experiencing. So I guess I thought that was like the easiest route for me, subconsciously. So moving forward, dealing with that, I was diagnosed with 2016, and it was kind of eye-opening because the doctors really let me know right from the beginning, like this is going to be an aggressive illness. And I really thought that I could heal this illness with holistic route. I'm like, okay, I'll change my diet. I'll go in on this with a bang. I'm not gonna take the medications. I was never a fan of holistic or pharmaceutical medications. So I'm like, I'm not gonna go that route. I'll try this route. Change my diet the way that I think, include some meditation, prayer and things of that nature. But that was a lot, not expected. That really didn't work for me. The illness that I was dealing with, it was just very dramatic. Like I came in on just with some experiencing some body aches, and then it went from body aches to headaches to hospital visits, like in and out of hospital. In and out of the hospital was very traumatic. Blood transfusions, and then I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. And for that to saying stage 4 kidney disease, I don't know if you guys know anything about kidney disease, but there's only 5 levels to kidney disease. So when I was diagnosed in 2016, I automatically came out at like stage 4. So that was very eye-opening to me. And I've experienced people in my family who've been on dialysis, dealing with kidney disease. So I knew that wasn't the place that I wanted to be. So I really tried to do anything that I could to not be on dialysis. So I did the chemotherapy. They said that was going to help save my kidneys. I tried different medications to rescue my kidneys, but nothing really worked to that sense. So for me to have gone through 6 rounds of chemo and then to have a heart attack was, I don't know. To be honest, I feel like it really wasn't worth it, but I know that everything happens for a reason. I'm grateful to be here today. But in a sense, I just feel like it was not, the therapy that I chose was not worth it. It really
So
took
did
a
you, did
toll
you
on
ever
me.
think, God, why are you doing this to me? Or did your family say, you'll be fine, God will take care of you? What was the interaction, the way you perceived it in terms of God's part of this, or your relationship with God as it was or wasn't? It's whatever the story is.
Prior to me having a heart attack, I was struggling tremendously. I was so bitter in a sense, just dealing with this illness and frustrated, but still I had so much work to do. I just constantly pushed myself to go to work, focus on my family, focus on my friends. Like I would never allow myself to just stay dwelling in the fact that I have an illness. I've always been a strong person. I just say like everything happens for a reason. God has me in this position because maybe I'm supposed to encourage other people or, whatever the case may be. So I just constantly focus on having a positive attitude. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. Whatever I can do, I'll do it. And if I can't do it, then I'll just take the day off for the day. But even still dealing with chemo, I would go to chemo and I would go to work. I would go to chemo, I'll go to work. I would never like take the days off and like be down on myself and say like, oh my gosh, I'm dealing with this illness. I can't make it. I'm going to call into work. Like I was constantly pushing myself. Even prior to having my heart attack, I was in Mexico for 6 days. So, with my best friend. So I was always like going above and beyond. I would never just like kind of be sluggish on it and say like, oh, I'm dealing with this illness. Poor me, poor me, poor me. I'm like, life is what it is, and you're going to make it what it's supposed to be. So if I'm dealing with this illness, I'm going to deal with it with a positive attitude, and I'm going to make the best out of it. So I never was like bitter towards God in a sense of putting me through this. I always had the supportive system. Like my family members are very supportive. I have like, even the people that I work with when I was working in corporate America, my managers were very helpful. They always encouraged me. If I needed days off, they'd allow me to have days off. They never like, just question me in a sense. If I needed time to go to chemo and then like, oh, I'm just not feeling well after treatment. I just need, a few days off. They would just be like, okay, take as much time as you need. So I was very grateful for the team and the support that I had that allowed me to make the best of the conditions that I was dealing with. But prior to me having a heart attack, or after I had a heart attack, I really, really was angry at God because I didn't understand how he could allow me to come back to earth and reset my entire life, like go from not reading and walking and speaking to having all of my mindset back, but still struggle with such an illness, such a dark and ugly illness. And then it continued to get worse from me having a heart attack. So yes, I did struggle a lot with the angriness and the bitterness towards God as to why are you putting me through this? Why would you bring me back to suffer? It was very, and then for me, I wasn't able to work after my heart attack. So I was really just sitting in the house recovering. I was going through therapies, speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy. So it was very, other than like me focusing on trying to get my life back together, that was literally my job in a sense. I deemed it like, oh, I have to go to work. And it was like physical therapy in a sense. But after I got done with all of that and completing it, and I got back to where I am today, then the struggles came in like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? I'm sitting in the house, having nothing to do in a sense. All of my friends are working, they're, dealing with their kids and their families and things of that nature. And I'm sitting here just left with nothing. I felt like, I really didn't know where to go from there. So I think that allowed me to experience more illnesses versus focusing on the positivity. Like when you focus on the negative, you're going to get negative. So me dealing with that and staying on that mindset, I continue to deal with other illnesses that related to lupus. I had colitis, which led me to having a colostomy bag, which was like, oh my gosh, like that was really mind blowing. I said, I can't even imagine to even think that, your intestines will be on the side of your stomach, and, and dealing with like blood transfusions. And I mean, it's just really now, dealing with dialysis. So, it's a constant battle with overcoming the challenges to dealing with this illness. But at the same time, I look at other people and they say like, oh my gosh, you're so strong. You're so strong. And I say, I give God the glory because I truly don't know how I would be so grateful. Like my mindset, like I'm grateful to be here. I see all the people that I affect on a day-to-day scenario, but in a sense of like dealing with the aspects of this illness, it's challenging. It's I can't even describe the words, to be honest. Like
it's my belief that one of God's greatest strengths is to give people a peace of mind, somehow a way to deal with it. Do you feel that God has done that, or are you still in a position of God? Come on, where does that fit in terms of all that's still going on relative to your relationship with him and whether or not he's done that or not?
I feel like I'm very grateful for the experiences that I've experienced. I feel like I'm the strongest. Like if I see anybody else in my family, I don't think that everybody could have made it the way that I've made it. I do give God the glory because he didn't have to choose me to go through this illness and to overcome it and to continue to overcome it. I see a lot of people, like my medical team, my family members, my friends, like they're all touched by everything that I've been through, not having to go through it themselves. So I feel like I'm very grateful to be the one that he has chosen to handle the struggles. And because I handle it with such a grace towards me, you know, I'm so enlightened that I have a different mindset approach to dealing with all of this. You know, I go through it with humor in a sense, you know, and to be honest, like I'm working on this film right now and it really allows me to adapt to all the things that I've been through. And I'm like, wow, how strong are you, Cam? You like, you've made it, you're going to continue to make it. And I feel like, in a sense, like, I don't believe that this is my forever illness. I'm not going to be here forever. I know God has an opportunity for me to overcome and succeed this illness. And I know he's allowing me to go through these struggles so that I can help other people that are dealing with other illnesses. I do believe that diet has plays a large role into any illness that you're dealing with, and also your mindset. What are your mindset? Well, how is your thoughts, you know, towards, if you're going to be angry towards it, you're going to continue to walk down a path of negativity. If you're going to think of positivity and you're going to encourage yourself, like, this is not for me, this is not for me, and you're going to look and research ways out of it, then you're going to prosper towards better things. You know, so, and I think that's where my mindset is right now. Like, this is not for me forever. I'm on dialysis right now, and I've continued to overcome being on dialysis. Most people are on dialysis, they do 3 times a week. I've dropped down to twice a week, and now I'm doing home dialysis. I've been able to train myself to do my own treatments. And even then, you're doing 5 days a week when you're doing home dialysis. I went from 5 days a week and now to twice a week. So, you know, like, how are you encouraging yourself? Like, are you going to continue to focus on the negativity? Or are you going to continue to, how am I going to get myself out of this? We're going to start off on this level and then we can move over to this level. So I think in a sense, like, God has continued to encourage me as to move forward and not to focus on solely on the illness in itself. Like, how can you adapt to isolating yourself in the sense of like making it better than where you started off?
I cannot give you a title for the movie, though I would suggest it, but because your new name is 44, I'd be happy to get you a Marquette jersey, number 44. And I think that'd be a good title for the movie, but I'll defer to Tommy. That's my, all I need is the size, because that's what you'll always be, 44 to me.
Aw, thank you. I'm excited. That's very thoughtful of you.
That's his heart for sure, Kameela.
This is the easy part. I just heard the hard part.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of 4, as we record on February 4th, and we had a couple of commitments, and when we talked about 2-3 weeks ago, you said, maybe this is a God thing that we're doing this on February 4th, yes. 2021.
Yeah, I just thought it was so amazing. You know, prior to me having a conversation with you before you called me, I was talking to my friend, Jenny, and she was saying that, you know, we're praying for divine alignment. And I sent her a few of my clips for the movie, and I'm like, you know, I really want to put this movie together, and I just think it's so amazing. And she was like, oh my gosh, we're going to pray for divine alignment, and God's going to allow you to set up everything that you, or accomplish everything that you want to accomplish. And you're going to know that it's him just based off of the way that it lines up. And I said, okay, this was the night before I spoke to you. And my dad had called me like maybe 2 weeks prior to me speaking to you, saying that he had just got done with the podcast with you. And I said, oh, that's cool, Dad. And he was like, and I was thinking to myself, like, maybe we can get you on the show. But I didn't say that yet. But then towards the end of it, he's like, hey, maybe you can get your daughter on the show. We could love to speak to her. And I was like, wow. He's like, and I felt like that was God. I said, well, yeah, that's pretty amazing, Dad. And I said, I don't mind that. That sounds like an interesting opportunity. I would love to be a part of that. So when he called me, he let me know. And then I spoke to you. And then we were saying it was supposed to be that day. And you were like, that day we were supposed to do that. Then I said, okay, yeah, that's fine. I don't have anything planned. But then later on, you said that there was a few other interviews that you had planned up that for like the next 3 weeks. And I said, okay, yeah, that's fine. Well, whenever you want me to do it. He said, well, I was thinking February 4th. And I said, what? Did you just say February 4th? He's like, yes. And I said, wow, that is just blowing my mind, because that is the day that I had my heart attack. And I was pushing to God. I said, well, February 4th, I really would like to put out, this film, and then I would, do whatever interviews that I could do on that day. And he was like, February 4th. And I said, that is definitely God's timing. I was just really like, it's just like a miracle. I pray for everyday miracles. And that definitely was one of those everyday miracles. So I'm very, you didn't even know what you were doing. You just were following orders. So
Homer will tell you, I don't know what I'm doing. So it's all the Lord for sure. Kameela, if anyone knows the sufferings of Jesus Christ, it's you, can relate more than
wow.
most. When you take that suffering, and he's made you so strong and given you the grace that I think we all need to take another step on our faith journey, no matter what the challenges may be. Have you been able to reconcile what you went through, especially as it relates to maybe being angry with God, and have peace and see that there's a greater purpose that he had for your life?
Yes. Lately, honestly, recently, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I really had a struggle. This is not too long ago. I was really frustrated with, being on dialysis. I feel like nobody should ever experience that. And I was really struggling. I was I just was giving up in a sense. And my team I was having a conversation with them when I went to center, and they were like, whoa, Cam, you're so young, and give me all of this spiel of continuing to go on. And I'm like, no, I just can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And they're like, what about your family? What about you? So you have so much support. And I'm like, yeah. But nobody's dealing with this except for me. It doesn't matter how much support that you have, and everybody's loving and encouraging, but it's me at the end of the day that has to come here and put in these needles and take these medications, so I'm like really struggling at this point. And it really touched me, because I had the entire staff crying, just tears coming out from their eyes, and they're really fighting for me. And I'm like, wow, for me, I'm just it blew my mind, because they're a medical team, and they're supposed to be very professional, and they are very professional, but in a sense of they've had an attachment to me. They maybe see me every now and then. I saw them for 5 weeks while they were training me to do my own home treatments. And then prior to that, I'm at home doing my own treatments. So I only have one nurse within that group, and I speak to her and she orders my supplies and things of that nature. But for me to have seen and communicate with them for 5 weeks, and then I come in and I'm having this temper tantrum of not wanting to do this anymore. It's I don't speak to these people on a day-to-day basis, but the connection that they had to me and how they felt about me feeling like I just can't do this anymore, I'm ready to give up. And they're literally crying. Everybody's coming into the room. My nephrologist is coming into the room, and he's frustrated with me. He's like, what do you mean you're not going to do this anymore? And I've been with this same nephrologist since the beginning of my illness. So, we have a relationship, but from my team at DaVita, it's we're just recently starting to connect. So for them to sit there and have a conversation with me, and they're crying, everyone's crying, and it's very emotional. It's a lot of energy going on in the room. it really opened up my eyes and like, okay, maybe I am here for a reason. Like, how could I touch these people so deeply and they don't really know me? Like they see me on a medical basis, you know? They don't know me in a sense of like Cammy, like they don't have my personality or the sense of that nature. Like they're literally just know my medical records. You know, they know I have kidney disease. They know I'm dealing with high blood pressure. I'm dealing with lupus, you know. So in a sense of that nature, how can they be so affected by me saying I can't do this anymore? And have tears in their eyes and like fighting for my life, you know, like it just really blew my mind. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like, you know, if I tell my family members, and obviously they're going to be affected and they're fighting for like, you're here for a reason, you're here for a reason. But for the team, and this is not the first indication. Like I've dealt with it with Davita, I dealt with it with Freighter, you know, and I'm like, prior to me starting dialysis, I'm like, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it. And the whole medical staff at Freighter were like, no, you have to do it. You have to do it. You're so young. And I'm like, why are you guys fighting for me so hard? You don't even know me. I don't even know you. These are not even my doctors. So, you know, it's like all these people are coming into my life that are like forcing me to continue to move forward. I know that has to be a divine connection, because why else? You know what I mean? Like, why else would they encourage me to continue on a life? Like, God must have a bigger plan for me that I may not see it at this point. But in a sense of like, these people are strangers to me. They're strangers. They don't know. There's people that the doctors are telling me, like one doctor told me, he's like, you remind me of my son. Like he's so smart. He's intelligent, you know, just telling me all these beautiful things, aspects about his son. And I'm like, oh, really? And like thinking that that's going to encourage me to change my mind and continue to live on. And I'm like, no, that's not encouraging me, sir. Like, I'm not going to do it. But, you know, I eventually did give in, because there was just so many people coming to me like, Cam, you have to do this. You have to do this. We've seen you go through so much, and look at you now, like you're here for a reason. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just can't imagine a life on dealing with or relying on a machine to continue to keep me alive. So it's very challenging, but in the sense, like, I know God has bigger plans for me, and I'm just waiting for the bigger plans. And to be honest, making this movie is really opening up my mindset to be like, oh wow, maybe you do know what you're doing, God. I gotta be more mindful about this.
How do
Because
you,
it is very mindfully.
how do you feel today?
I feel excellent. I feel like the strongest that I've ever been. I continue to win battles dealing with this illness. Like, yes, I'm on dialysis, but I went from like 5 days a week to twice a week, you know, and it's all based off of how I'm doing, diet wise, exercise, you know, meditation. I do all these positive things that are helping me push forward. You know, I'm not continuing to like focusing on saying like, oh, I'm going to have this illness for the rest of my life. I got to take all these medications. Like, I give God the glory. I pray every day for healing, that God will heal me, send me a miracle, like another miracle in that sense. You know, He sent me tremendous miracles back in the past, but moving forward, you know, I pray for everyday miracles. And He does continue to show me everyday miracles. And I'm just blessed, so blessed to be so connected to Him. I attend church. I do children's church at Life Church in Milwaukee. I also do computer like production. So I do like the podcasts on like the scriptures and the lyrics on the screens and things of that nature behind the scenes. So I do a lot of church activities, which is I love. I love being a part of that community. And I help out a lot with my nieces and nephews. They're a beautiful blessing to me. I don't have any kids of my own, so they're like my little babies. So I help raise them and help them with their homework. And I got an 8-month-old nephew, and he's a handful for sure. So he keeps me busy, and all these other aspects of just enjoying life. You know, I ask God every day to show me a beauty in every day. Like, show me something that I could be grateful for, like something that I didn't experience yesterday. Show me an eye-opening experience today that I didn't see yesterday. And he continues to do that. So I'm very honored in a sense to be here. And even though I do go through the struggles that I go through, like there's always a beautiful opportunity to be thankful, to be grateful that, like, yes, things can be ugly, life can be challenging, but it's all about how you go about your challenges.
Homer, any other thoughts, my friend?
No, 44.
44. Can't
Right.
wait for
Can't wait.
the one thing that occurs to me,
Yes.
and it's very obvious, you touch everybody, Cammie, within the sound of your voice, those who get to see your beautiful smile as we have. And we thank you for allowing us to hear your wonderful story, which I know anyone who sees it and hears it will be touched. It seems to me that God has even bigger plans, because with every breath, again, somebody is blessed. And you may see lots of people in the kingdom of God because of your amazing heart and soul and witness. So thanks again. We really appreciate it. Thoughts and prayers, and can't wait for 44, the movie.
Oh, that is such a great movie. I love it. I'm going to go with that title.
I can't guarantee the title, but I can guarantee the jersey.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
See, good things come out of it, don't they? That's just
Yeah,
fantastic.
44 is actually my favorite number. So it's not necessarily the fact that I had a heart attack on that day, but my birth month is April. So that's the fourth month. So 44 is cool. 4 February
You're
or
pretty cool
April.
too. Yeah, you're pretty
Thank
cool
you.
too. Thank you. Kameela Minley has been our guest on My Faith with Homer and Pip. I'm Tom Pippins, our wonderful producer making it possible, Brent Young, and don't know much more to say other than what a blessing to spend this time with you. God bless everybody. My Faith with Homer and Pip. Look forward to our next episode. Tough to top
Thank
this young lady.
you. God bless.